Hey everybody, and welcome back to Fast Charging with B&B, the greatest podcasts ever made. I'm Brian.
And I'm Bear.
How is everybody? We are simulcast on My Tesla Weekend and Bear's Workshop. Let us know in the comments if you can hear us. Can you hear us?
Hear me? I'm right here.
Can you hear me meow?
Is Brian louder than me?
Oh, that would be something,
Brian?
wouldn't it? Just making sure we got everything set up, waiting for someone to say, yes, hola, Luis, good to see you. I guess this means we absolutely must be live.
On your side, we definitely are.
What a week.
And remember, we are simultaneously streaming. We are on my channel, on Bear's Workshop, and we are on Brian's channel, on My Tesla Weekend. Brian's got confirmation that everything is working, and I just got it all good. Thank you, Gordon. Good to see you.
MD Hofty's already joking around. What's the call-in number? Yeah, it's 420-694-2069, right?
You know, that's a combination from my luggage.
Of course it is. Audio's green across the board. So this week, a lot of folks are going to be traveling. Did you know that, Bear?
Yes, it's there's some sort of holiday here in the U.S. that other people don't celebrate because they didn't have Indians.
Yeah.
Well, they're not Indians now.
Right. Turns out they never were. So one of the big things that comes up is range anxiety. And I am of the opinion that it's an overblown issue. What's your thoughts on that, Bear?
I think that it is an issue, but it is overblown. If you're driving like the distances that I've driven and going to Vegas a lot, going to Mexico a lot, I've driven from here to Austin, you are definitely aware of where you're stopping next. There is no question that, we have to stop here and we have to charge up. Those are long distance trips. It's not the same thing as just being in town. In town, I rarely have an issue. There's the occasional time where I've forgotten to plug in the car, or my wife's plugged in her car and my car wasn't charged up, where I'm like, but it's never really prevented me from going anywhere because I've always had more than enough. But let's talk about how to solve that.
Sure. So, big kind of fun news. Kettleman City, California has added 56 more SuperChargers to the 40 that they have. It is one of the most popular in Tesla's network. And it is, when you see those videos over holiday weekends of long lines, it's at Kettleman. So this is helpful. This is going to alleviate some of that. Not all of it.
I think it's definitely going to help. I noticed driving around when I do have to use a supercharger that there are not a lot of spaces, but they may have put in the right amount for now because I've never had to wait.
Right.
But it's always been like 2 or 3 spots have always been open, and I don't think I've ever been at one where they're all filled. Especially the one in California, right over the border, or maybe it's in Arizona. It's right around Quartzsite, and they have 44 stalls there.
Wow!
And it's a 250 kilowatt charger. But the thing is, I've never seen more than 6 cars there.
Sure.
So that was a little bit of a head scratcher for me. I've been there 2 or 3 times. And there's just like nobody there, but there's tons of spots, and they're all fast chargers. So I did appreciate that. I just still want to see more chargers in other locations,
sure.
like in Mexico,
right?
Or
last week someone suggested they could call it the Juan for the Road program.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one.
It's a good one. So the other thing that Tesla has been known to do in the past is deploy the SuperCharger MegaPacks. So flatbed rolls out. It can do about 100 full charges. This is a 2-year-old article, so that 100 might even be based on the Model S rather than the Model 3. But that's something they can do. in busy holiday weekends.
And they did make mention in this article that it was all at like 120 kilowatt chargers, but being that this is 2 years old, I'm sure that they would have upgraded that by now to the 250. 250s were rarer back then. So I would imagine that this is probably even better than what it was.
And it may be a factor of what the MegaPack is able to output at a given time. But who knows, man? Who knows? Every bit helps. So the last thing on this before we jump into the Q&A for this section, if you got questions, don't forget to ask them, is there are apps that make it easier.
Easier to what, Brian?
Well, define charging. Define charging. I can't vouch for this article or these apps, but it lists things like EV hotels. Apparently Google Maps has it. I don't know. Yeah, it does. That's right. I've looked it up and I've seen chargers around. Plug share. I've heard good things about a better route planner. I don't know. But there are ways to make it easier. So if range anxiety is your issue, my first suggestion would be to ask around before you buy, and then get these apps once you've bought. And if you are buying a Tesla, you've got the supercharger network, and the car can do a pretty fantastic job with that. Would you agree?
Yes, I totally agree. And one of the things that when I've had people who haven't been in my Tesla before and they're like scratching their head, they're like, well, how do you find a charging station if you need one? And it's just a one tap on the navigation screen, and it will bring up a window with a couple of buttons, software buttons, and you tap on the one for supercharger, and then poof, anything that's within that map will show you where a supercharger is. So it's very easy to find them for the Tesla ones. I would like to see one that actually showed, the competitors. I think that would be a nice thing to do if Elon Musk is all about getting people into the EV world. Like he says, I think that would be a nice little feature. I know it doesn't help them, but people are still going to want to go to the Tesla ones if they can, because, they're going to be faster than most of these other ones.
Sure.
Plus, you don't need some strange adapter that you may not have with you at the time.
Sure. So I've got a couple comments here. MD Hofsty says, doesn't Tesla map software do the same thing but better?
Yes.
Let's see. Most people...
it's just a matter of finding a charging station in a pinch.
Right. Paul Crowdis, a fan of both channels as I recall. Most people that are new to EVs make too much of the charging infrastructure. Most charging is done at home. Yeah, that would be wonderful.
That's absolutely correct. I don't charge anywhere but my house unless I'm on a road trip. And this year I've taken more road trips than the average person. So, yeah, you're going to charge at home. Of course, you run into the point, and it's a valid point, of people who live in apartments and don't have access to...
And that's something that hopefully will be addressed in the budget bill that was recently passed. There is $7.5 billion to build out charging infrastructure, which could absolutely go into businesses, apartments, etc. Cyber Randy says the Tesla app now shows how many of the stalls are operational versus out of order, which is, it doesn't help you if there's 50 stalls if 48 of them are broken. That's a nice update.
Did you know that there is a supposed standard when you get to a supercharger and you get to one that's not working, what you're supposed to do?
No.
You leave it off the hook.
Oh.
That way someone pulling up to it knows, don't go here.
Oh. I thought it was to swear.
Well, yeah, you have to, but if it's the last one,
but you mean after
otherwise
that?
you do.
I understand.
Yeah, after that, of course. That way you're letting everyone else know. Don't put it back on the hook. It's broke. I've got Aussie Astronaut says, good day from Tesla Model 3 owner in Australia. Wow. Hello, Aussie. And Gordon, give me a hello from Vancouver, British Columbia.
Nice. Just up the road from me. You must pay a visit.
I was in Vancouver last year, 10 minutes before COVID hit. I was up
Wow.
there for skiing. Not that I
Wow.
skied because I'm too old. I'll die. But yes, I passed through Vancouver. They have no freeway that runs through that city. You take the freeway up there, and the city, it just ends into the city, and you have to take downtown streets until you get to the other side. They have no pass through. And we asked somebody about that. And they said, yeah, they did that on purpose. They didn't want a freeway. It's like, okay.
I've never driven past Vancouver.
Well, when you got there, you had to get off the freeway.
Yeah.
It just
Didn't occur to me that was the end of it.
Yeah, that was the end of it until you get past it. And then it starts up again.
All right. I think we can move on from there.
But on a similar topic,
Yeah.
talking about superchargers and charging stations, Britain has now said that new homes in England to have electric car chargers by law.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Brian and I both pick out articles, and we both picked out different articles of the same thing. So we both thought that this was interesting.
And it's not particularly new necessarily, but it's back in the news. Maybe they got a little, maybe it moved forward a step. But Bear had an interesting point about what's missing from this.
What's missing from this is the minimum requirements. Are you just talking about having a 220 outlet? Because that's all that I need to charge my car is a 220 outlet. Now, there are caveats to that because a 220 outlet at 30 amps is different than a 220 outlet at 60 amps. Both will work. Both have a different connection here in the United States. I don't know how it is in other countries, but the prongs are shaped different, and it's just a different configuration. Now, I've had the pleasure of charging my car in a 30 amp system down in Mexico, where I go. When I went down there, I had to change out the outlet in order for it to fit.
Wow.
Eventually, I said, "Oh, let me just buy the correct outlet," which was a lot easier. But having the 30 amp outlet took about 9 hours to charge my car, where the 50 amp that I have at my place will actually charge it in probably about 5 or 6 hours, all which is overnight. But we go back to England. What if this is 20 amps? Is it 30 amps? You really want to have the proper stuff put in there. You don't want to say, well, they got a 220 outlet. And is it just an outlet, or is it a whole charging station? And then if it's a whole charging station, what's it for? Is it for a Tesla? Is it for a Ford, a Lucid? Everyone's got different things these days.
I think an outlet is adequate. I think an outlet should be
it
adequate.
should be.
MD
But it
Hosty
also-
said that the latest electrical code in the U.S. mandates 220 in the garage.
Well,
So if that's the case, I mean, I haven't heard that, but I'm not in a position to know it. But the reason I think this law is great, or this building code is great, is the cost to add a line for your car during construction is substantially less than having to go back later and add it.
It's so insignificant on the price
Of a house.
It really is just it really is just an outlet. And a new home builder will charge you $250 for it, but it's there. And they're literally using $30 worth of parts and 20 minutes worth of labor just to run that extra line.
Right, when there's no drywall or no nonsense. And now we know that
Yes.
the panel is sufficiently large. My brother's an electrician, and he has one thing he always does is he puts his business card in the panel when he finishes a new house. And he's had builders who were so cheap that he wouldn't leave a card because he knew that if they ever wanted to call and say, I want to put in a hot tub, it was already maxed out. It would have been $50 on a $500,000 house to go up to a reasonable size panel. And the builder's like, nah, not for me, bro.
Yeah, I'm maxed out at my place, but I still keep adding, and I will keep adding. Just playing the odds.
That sounds like a great reason to have homeowners insurance.
Yeah, I upped everything, so I'll be good.
Yeah.
Totally ready for it, and I also keep my batteries changed in my. smoke
I've got
detectors.
two big concerns about insurance. One is I just found out my wife put a life insurance policy on me.
Oh,
And,
you're a dead
and
man.
the second one is it's only for $5,000. The hell? I'm just kidding. All right. Let's see. Do we have anything about that? Marcus from the UK says hello. Hello, Marcus. It's great that we've got you folks here. I appreciate that. Let's see. Yeah, electric clothes dryers are 220. Mm-hmm.
Ozzy says he's using standard 10 amp at 2 kilowatts. Oh my goodness, Ozzy. So how long does that take you? Like 36 hours to charge up? Because that seems like it would take an awfully long time.
Well, before he answers, I'll tell you, I've seen a number of firsthand accounts on social media where people say, I trickle charge. I pick up, 20 miles a night, which is almost enough to cover my commute. And then over the weekend, I get caught up. And if something, if the week goes bad or there's a power outage, just hit a supercharger. But you will pay more per mile charging on 110 than you will on a 220.
I don't know. Would you?
No. That's something that I've read from other Tesla owners, is that because it's less efficient, or I don't know, it will end up costing slightly more per mile.
Maybe because you can't use the time of use, but I would think if you're still using the same amount of kilowatts, you're going to get charged the same amount of kilowatts.
I don't know.
When we first got my wife's Model 3, they didn't have a Tesla charger or adapter in the car. And I think that's one reason they wanted to get rid of the car so fast, because they had 6 miles left on it. They had no way to charge it. So they gave us a cable from a Ford Fusion, I think it was. It was a 110 that came with the Fusion, and they said, we're going to plug this in. It's going to take us overnight, and the car will probably have about 50 or 60 miles on it when you're ready to pick it up tomorrow. Is that enough to get home? I'm like, well, barely, but okay. And then they gave us the cable to charge the car. So the first 2 days that we had the car, I couldn't get the car fully charged. It was trickle charging at, I think it was 5 miles an hour.
That's about right for 110.
Yeah. And it was heartbreaking because my wife's looking at me like, why'd you tell me to get this car? I can't. And I'm like, well, she doesn't talk like that. But she wasn't too happy. I wasn't too happy. Eventually, they got us something that would only go up to 30 amps, which was better. And we could still get the car charged overnight. And then when I got my car, then we got a real Tesla charger.
Right.
But yeah, it was baby steps at first. It was like, okay, well, we can't drive the car too far.
Right.
It's like, can I take my car to work today? I'm like, sorry, no.
Yeah. I don't have any, let's see. Oh, here in Europe, and I count the UK because it's the same there, even after Brexit, we charge with the Type 2 plug. It's 400 volt 3-phase, 16 amps or 11 kilowatt, or 32 amps for 22 kilowatt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ozzy says that he gets 15 kilometers of range an hour, which is probably about 8 or 9 miles per hour, I think, something like that. So that's not horrible. It's more than what I was getting on 110.
Who said that one?
Ozzy.
Oh, okay.
He says enough for his daily commute.
So Cyber Randy said split volt is the name of the device to split the power from your dryer to a different.
But that is expensive.
Is it the split volt?
I don't know if it's called split volt, but I looked up something like that where it will let the power go to your Tesla when you need to, and it was like $500 or $600.
Ooh, you know, it's a lot of juice, and safety is important. Safety is important. Should we move on?
Yeah. Safety. Safety's overrated. Yeah, let's move on.
So we've got some cars to talk about, some new cars.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So Polestar Precept Concept previews the 2024 Polestar 5. It's nice.
I think that's actually a pretty decent looking car.
It sure is, but it's a concept still, so... But
Yeah,
I don't see any reason
thing.
they couldn't make it just like that.
I don't think so. Except, I don't know. Pictures always look better when they're drawn.
I loved when the all new Dodge Neon came out, and it was so ugly that in the commercials they would only show artist rendering of it. It's like, oh, that's a bad sign. By the way, real quick, Cyber Randy said $349 on Amazon for the split volt. Yeah, that's. I mean, that's not insane, but it is a little steep. So anyway, the Polestar. So my thought on a Polestar is when they say 2024, I actually believe them.
They were one of the first to markets with a real electric car that of these startups.
Sure.
They've delivered about 10,000 or so of the Polestar 2. So it could be real.
Yeah.
Could be real.
Yeah. 3 prototypes of the fully electric Porsche Macan. Macon, Georgia. Spy
I don't
testing.
know which one it is. I don't know
I
if
don't
it's
know.
Macan or Macan. I think because it's Porsche, it should be Macan because it
You mean
sounds fancier.
Porsche?
Porsche.
Yeah, see?
I don't know. Some Porsche owners get a little perturbed if you just say Porsche.
Yeah. People are weird. People are weird. Some of my biggest fans take issue with some of the littlest things, but that's fine. Yeah, if this is, this will be a hot seller. I wish they would make more, but apparently it's something they're working on, and it's a small brand to begin with.
It is a very small brand, and I don't think people realize how small of a brand Porsche is because Tesla makes more cars in a year than Porsche does of all vehicles.
Oh, yes. I believe that's if somebody wants to look up how many what their annual production is, it's pretty surprisingly small.
I was very surprised when I found that out.
What's the next one?
The next one is the Volkswagen ID.5.
Yeah, it looks fine. It looks
You know what?
fine.
I like that better than the ID.4.
Yeah, you know what? I'll be honest. I don't even mind the ID. I don't mind any of them. I think they all look fine. They all look like Volkswagens. A little pointier. They look a little more Honda-ish than a normal
They
one.
do. I've never been a big fan of the Volkswagen look. I think they always look very generic.
Yeah.
Nothing exciting. Going, wow, what's that?
Well,
It's
even
a
the
Volkswagen.
Cabriolet was kind of vanilla.
Yeah, they are. They're a little bit of milk toast. They're just sitting there. But I think this has got a lot more style to it than some of the previous vehicles that they've had. So
Yeah.
I kind of like it. I don't know where the range is going to be. They say 300, and that will be next year. So they're still trailing behind everybody else or Tesla. They're trailing behind Tesla because even though they might have 300 range, which beats some Tesla cars, they're still not going to have the acceleration and the punch and the fun to drive that a Tesla has. So they're still lagging.
That's also the NEDC rating, which is the most generous. It
Oh,
might not be the most generous, but it's way more generous than the WLTP we use in the US. So
yeah. Well,
but
then we'll see. We'll have
yeah,
to see what. And ours is even generous, but
yes,
it is. It is.
yes. Do we want to cover the next one before we stop for questions?
Uh,
Let's do it.
yeah.
Let's do it.
Sure.
This powerful electric boat from SpaceX engineers is the latest e-watersports startup.
When I first looked at that picture, I saw SpaceX fins. I saw fins from the Starship. I didn't even see the boat when I first saw it because I think this is another artist conception, and I don't know if this is real. That water doesn't. I've never seen water that smooth. But going down a little bit lower, there are some decent pictures. It seems like a nice little cruiser. It's 24 foot. I've got a boat, so I know that that's a decent size for a boat. You don't need anything crazy, and it's got what it says is a 475 horsepower motor, which it says 350. I'm sorry, it's a 200 kilowatt battery, and
Oof.
with my that's pretty big, obviously.
That's robust.
Yeah, that is. So that would be impressive. I've got a jet boat with two motors on it, two 4-cylinder motors, and it pushes out I think 320 horsepower. So right on the surface, that would beat it as far as but specs. But it says it only has a top speed of 40 miles per hour. My boat, I know I've taken up to 46, 47,
Oof.
and I haven't run out of gas. I'm curious to see on this two things. One, how long is that battery going to last? And the second thing is, how much is this going to cost? Because I would definitely be interested in this. Before I bought this boat, I was looking to see what was out there for electric boats, and there are some conversion kits on pontoon boats. So there's definitely a startup market going into that, but cost is a big factor. A new boat will probably cost you over $100,000 for this size with
The
a gas
battery
motor.
pack alone would be 30,
Yeah.
40.
Yeah.
It depends, who's making the actual battery, but I'm assuming it's going to be a pretty custom hand.
Make. But if you're going to be packing a battery into it, it's it gets a little tricky to get that in there, because you're molding these out of fiberglass and then finishing them off. And I'm a little curious if some of that battery's in the front end, because a boat that size usually has an open bow, and that looks like it's closed off.
Sure does.
And also, for the purpose of planing on a boat, you need to reach a certain speed so you can get the most efficiency, and that's planing. You don't put a lot of weight in the front, because it won't let you plane it. When you take off, you're going like this, you're going like this, and then you reach this point. But if you've got more weight in the front, it's going to be harder to get to that. So I'd love to see more details about that boat and see if that is something that's possible.
So we've got one last one, and then we'll go back to the Q&A.
Yes. And it's on the same topic. GM goes anchors away as company announces electric boat investment. And this is something that seems to be a little bit different. This is something that's going to cost $16,500 for an electric outboard motor system. This is not a boat so much as it is something you can put on a dinghy, a large dinghy. And those are inflatable boats, and those are decent. You can fit a couple people on those. We were actually looking at buying one for down in Mexico, and we found an old one. It was like $3,000. And then if this kit was available, we could then put that on there. I still looked at this as being too small for the ocean, so it was a little scary. But they have turnkey models that are $24,000. 25 kilowatt battery, 34 horsepower motor. You're not going to be going all that fast, but this is a very lightweight boat also.
Sure.
So it's definitely a way to get into that market. And I think it could be fun.
Sure. So in a second, we're going to do the questions. Question I've got for you guys out there is why is GM doing this? And now I will ask you the same question, Bear. What are you doing, General Motors?
On announcing this?
What's the point of this acquisition?
They are deeply involved in motorsports and power sports. They make motors for a lot of different... and if they don't do it, someone else is going to come along and do it. And that's a $1 billion industry. And it just depends on what you're talking about, what kind of power sport you're talking about, but their motors are in everything. The Polaris Slingshot had a motor that used to be in the Cavalier, and they're making those Slingshots as new, but the motor, I don't know, that was a couple of years ago that I heard that, or that I was told that when I was looking at one by a dealership. Things may have changed, but just as recently as a few years ago, they were putting motors from Cavaliers or some other four-cylinder GM product. They're putting those in there. They are making sure that they don't get pushed out of this market, because as everything changes, maybe they are realizing that it is inevitable, but they don't want to get pushed out. So that's why I think they need to stay on top of it.
Okay. So should we get to some questions here, going back a little bit? Let's see. Oh, Cyber Randy pointed out that the $350 switch is a smart switch. So if you forget that the car is plugged in and turn on your dryer, you don't have a problem. So that's good.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's what you'd be paying for. I knew it was a smart switch, and it is something that you definitely have to have. Otherwise, you're just tripping stuff. It's got to have something like that.
I've got a hi from Daniel Carlson in Utah. Cyber Randy said, new Ford electric truck in retro, LOL, going backwards to go forward. Yeah, and we actually talked about that 2 weeks ago, week or two. So what you guys need to do is not only go back and watch episodes 1, 2, and 3, but do it on both channels, because for those tuning in just now, this is simulcast on Bear's Workshop and My Tesla Weekend. How cool is that? We're trailblazers is what we are. Let's see.
Yeah, I've got a message. I got a hey bear from Tesla Dan. Hey, Tesla Dan, how you doing? Tesla Dan, sorry. And JKM is just blowing up the chats here. Wanting to know what we think about Ford and Rivian parting ways. We're going to talk about that in a couple minutes, so we will get back to that. And bless the bag holder buying at 180 last week. Oh my God. Yeah, it wasn't me. And did I just lose my camera?
You look paused to me. Oh, no, you're back.
Okay, came back. I didn't even have to do anything. Okay.
Okay, so the Porsche delivery number, 153,000 worldwide, representing a 31% increase over the previous year. So, yeah that's, last year that'd be what, 3.5 months of Tesla's production, and this year it's more like...
Yeah, that's twice Giga Shanghai in a month.
Right. So it's... Yeah.
I've got JKM said that he spoke to Jason Royce at Nikola, and I know of Jason, and I've seen some of his posts on Twitter, and he said that they will have 2 FCEV trucks delivered by the end of the year. So
Nice.
Those are the fuel cell trucks,
Nice.
which I find a little surprising, because those were supposed to be in alpha.
Yeah, but for testing purposes, there's no reason not to push them. Yeah, I don't think that's a crazy or outrageous claim at all. I did have 2 super chats. I wanted to thank Steve, and this one I just got. That's I don't know. It's a picture of like a film. I'm not sure what that is. Thank you guys. Let's see. My dream boat is a 50-foot solar catamaran. That would be
sound right.
That would
Yeah.
be some. That would open some doors.
Living down in
Ozzy is
Costa
saying he's
Rica.
watching us on both streams. That's neat.
Who is?
Ozzy
Ozzy.
astronaut.
Oh, yeah. Ozzy.
You'll have to
astronaut.
tell us who's got better sound or if it's tied. It should be tied.
Yeah, we've been working hard on that.
Daniel Carlson, as an electrician, 50 amp for residential. Law is only 30 amp. So I think what he's saying is that 50 is preferred, 30 is required. And that would make sense, because for most things, 30 is going to be plenty adequate.
Not charging a car, especially if
Right.
you have 2 of them.
Right, but this was, you know how slow regulations are to change. Up until even 4 years ago, that just wasn't a consideration. R3D Redman says, sounds desperate by GM. Photo Gib, that sounds expensive, as speaking as a boater.
Yeah.
And Paul came up with the obvious answer. Oh, that was Marcus Heap who did the €5. Thank you so much. Have a coffee. Yes, I shall. Said, he figured it out. He cracked the code. GM is getting involved in the boating because, as Mary Barrow will be the first to agree, they're leading the world in boating, electric boating. They're electrified. They electrified. You did it, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
You did it.
Without you, I don't know where we'd be.
Ridiculous.
Ozzy said your sound is better.
Oh, super. I mean, I don't know. Definitely give him some feedback on how to improve. Let's see.
Yes, please do that, Ozzy.
Cyber Randy said they probably outsourced to Magna. Steve EZ says still one of the better GM investments. I mean, yes. Yes. Pete Gruber of Gruber Motors had a rant.
What about their nickel investment?
Pete Gruber of Gruber Motors just had a rant in YouTube warning about the German bureaucracy. I'm not worried about that. I don't think that's going to be a big issue.
I think it is. I think it is somewhat of an issue.
We'll see. So Redman, we don't have any Nikola topics, so he asked, where are the Nikola trucks fueling up? You can answer that, Bear.
The BEV or the FCEV?
It's got to be the fuel cell. I mean, BEV, we know.
Well, yeah. Well, they have a charging station for the batteries right there on site, and they also have a hydrogen storage tank located on the north side, and they are filling it from there. And we've seen numerous FCEVs park right next to it, and it's very clearly their hydrogen filling station for right now.
So I've got a link in the description to Bear's Workshop, or just, go to YouTube and type in Bear's Workshop. He's got, what was it? I want to say yesterday's video had some good shots of the hydrogen fueling station and the truck actually connected to it.
Yes, and it was open. It's a cab over design, and it was open at the time. I want to say thank you to Tesla Den for the super chat. We appreciate that. And he's giving it to us for channel support. Speaking of channel support, we are real close to pulling the trigger on the new drone. We're hoping for a Black Friday sale or a what is it? The Monday
Cyber
Madness
Monday?
or every Monday. We're hoping for something along that lines because this drone is more than we ever expected. But we have seen the capabilities of the zoom, and we are going to get some awesome shots at Lucid, and they are just going to crap themselves because everything that they didn't want us to see, we are going to be able to see. We're going to be able to find the underwear size of the construction workers if their undies are sticking out. We're going to be able to get a necklace. Thank you, Rob Womack, for your super chat. Appreciate it. Hey, you, back to you. Even though you said, damn, that was a dumb sticker. Oh, okay, so you didn't mean to do that sticker. Okay.
So I got a great question here. PhotoGib said, do y'all know the max output of Fremont before Tesla owned it? Was it intended to do 500? And I knew this would be an easy answer to find, so I went ahead and grabbed it. With an annual manufacturing capacity of 500,000, NUMMI topped out at only 430,000 before GM and Toyota shuttered the plant. So there's your answer. It was intended to do 500, but that was without having the battery or the motor works on site, without having the seats made on site. It was meant to assemble cars, not build them from quite as close to scratch as they did. And yeah, so Tesla has moved significantly up in terms of capacity at NUMMI, or at the former NUMMI plant, now Tesla.
Why do you think Giga Shanghai has got so much more in production now than Fremont?
Why?
Because what's your opinion?
Absolutely, because it's purpose built. The lines are straight and clean and tidy and exactly what they need to be. They also have they're better integrated on using the larger castings, which speeds up the line as well. And they were able to switch to lithium iron phosphate batteries sooner, which meant they didn't have a battery bottleneck that they had from Giga Nevada producing the 2170s. So, yeah, all those things combined, and they're also making the standard range Model Ys with the LFPs, so that all added up to faster production. Yeah.
I agree with all those points. I just want to give you something.
Oh, that was a softball down the middle of the plate, baby. All right.
Right, but it's for everyone else.
So I got a question much earlier about Rivian, and I think it's time to get to the first of the Rivian stories.
The first one.
Ford and Rivian's breakup. Sour grapes, growing confidence, or something else? I think... yeah, go.
What do you think?
Well, I think Ford might have known something that was not necessarily public information. They're a large stakeholder. They're able to see behind the curtain in ways everyone else can't.
Insider information.
Well, yeah, and there's nothing that's not illegal. They're a stakeholder.
I didn't say illegal insider information,
right.
but they have insider information.
So, this article from Barron says that actually isn't a big surprise. I'll be honest, it did surprise me. In 2020, Ford canceled a program which would have seen one of its vehicles built on a Rivian frame. But that's not surprising to me because Ford's got grand ambitions now.
Yeah, I think part of it is that they think they can, in a sense, go it alone. They can make their own electric vehicle, right. And they have progressed a lot. They're coming out with the Lightning, and it's going to be a decent truck. There's no question about that.
Sure.
So I think it's almost like they're like, you know what? Maybe we could stand on our own 2 feet. We're Ford, you know.
Right.
So
right.
I think that has something to do with it. Granted, they could know something that we don't know, and
sure.
Because there are some other things about Rivian that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I think also the potential for the upcoming EV credit has emboldened Ford to believe that they absolutely can do better making their own than not. So should we? Yeah, we should just keep rolling on Rivian because Rivian could land big electric vehicle order from RV platform Outdoorsy. Take it away.
Outdoorsy. Okay, so Outdoorsy is a place where people can rent out their RVs. And I've actually been using Outdoorsy for about 2 years now, and I've been renting out my RVs. I have 2 of them. I'm interested in this because I was looking recently at getting a Class B, and you can convert those Class B. You can convert a van like a Rivian van, or a Dodge ProMaster, or the Mercedes used to be a Sprinter. You can convert these over to small RVs, and they're very rentable. And I was looking at, hey, could I get a Rivian van? Until I saw the range, and then I was like, no, I don't want to do this. And then I found out that there was an exclusive agreement with Amazon for the next couple of years, and there's no chance of getting a Rivian van. Now I see this article, Rivian could land the electric vehicle order. So my question, because the article doesn't explain it, but it's talking about an order for 1,000 Rivian vans. Are those for RV? The Outdoorsy doesn't own any products. They're a platform. So are they planning on buying these and then renting them out? Or is it going to be something they're going to work with owners who are established with Outdoorsy and have them purchase these vehicles and then rent them out? I'd love to know more because having an in with Outdoorsy, I would love the potential of possibly renting out a Rivian. But I also, if it's going to be an RV of some sort, a Class B, there's got to be more range because there's range issues. Aren't there range issues with... have you heard of any range issues, Brian?
I have heard Amazon driver reports 40% faster battery drain when using the air conditioning. Oh man, that is, problematic. I can tell you on my Zen Electric, it had air conditioning. And if you turned it on, you better be within eyesight, an eye line of home because it would absolutely cut my range in half and not really blow any cold air.
Which is interesting that it would cut your range in half, but since they made that product to what they have now, they've only reduced that to 40% reduction.
Well, I don't know for sure if it was half because I only used the air conditioning once and I learned my lesson.
Well, I'll tell you, air conditioning is a necessity in lots of parts of the country.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're a delivery driver running door to door, absolutely. So we're getting kind of long, so I think we should get to the big news on Rivian, the scary news on Rivian. Apparently today, all the folks who thought that they were going to have their Rivian next week got an email saying, nope, it's actually going to be more like next March or maybe even next September. This survey came from users of r/Rivian. As of last update, this had 129 responses on it. These are people who put in their pre-orders all the way back in 2018, 2019, and 20. And what percentage of them are getting them earlier than next March? I'm showing 2%. 2%.
It was two people.
With the largest slice of the pie being next March or April. And there are users in there I saw who sold their trade-ins. My truck is coming next week, you see. I've got my financing lined up. Everything's ready to go. I ain't got nothing to drive. I would be in a bad mood is what I would be.
Which leads me to a segue. You can rent something off of Turo. You come rent my truck for the next 6 months. It won't cost you. Well, all right, it'll cost you. So yeah, those people are kind of, they're in a hole if they've gotten rid of their car, and it may not have been like a great move to do. I don't know if those people who did that actually said it's coming Tuesday, or if.
Oh no, they had delivery dates via email or in the app or whatever that said November 30th.
How far off were they? How far off were they? Do you know how far off
November 30th.
Delivery dates?
One guy said as of Tuesday, it still said November 30th, and then he got an email saying March, April.
Yeah, okay, I don't necessarily blame him, but it is a startup company, and
yeah,
I sold the vehicle I was getting rid of when I bought my Model Y. I sold it about 3 weeks before my delivery was expected, and I knew I was taking a chance that something could happen, but also, Tesla was just pumping them out at that time. The chip shortage wasn't really much of a conversation then, and I also had another vehicle to drive, so it wasn't that big of an issue for me. I don't know if I didn't have another vehicle, I would not have done it. But people got their own reasons for doing what they do, and unfortunately, sometimes you get screwed.
I think the degree to which this is going to erode goodwill with people who are absolutely the biggest Rivian fans, to me this was a gut punch, and I'm not, obviously not the biggest Rivian guy, but I just it's shocking to me. It's shocking to me. How did you not know yesterday that next week is going to actually be 6 months?
Yeah, it is shocking that they didn't have the foresight to see that, because they should have. As an investor on the outside, or a possible future customer, I'm not all that surprised. I was actually expecting Lucid to have some sort of delivery issue because they were so secretive about so many things. I was expecting after their first deliveries for them to say, okay, well, we've got this issue and that issue, and they're full steam ahead right now. I was surprised that they didn't have one. I'm not surprised to see issues like that come up, but I am surprised that instead of a delay of like a couple of weeks, they're obviously waiting on a chip order of something, or an order of something that's not going to come in till March. And it is possible that some dude was sitting there going, well, we've got these 100 cars and they're waiting, or 100 trucks, and they're waiting for these parts. And he keeps calling the supplier, and the supplier saying, yeah, it's in the port at Los Angeles. And all of a sudden, they go, well, the ship sank. Sorry, something happened. You're not getting your chips. They're like, well, when can we get our chips? March. So whatever it is, whatever they're missing, they need to have more people like from Tesla who, okay, now we need to adapt. We're not getting these parts for 6 months. What do we need to do to get these out? Because we can't just continue to build these trucks. Because if these are the first 1,000 trucks on the line and they're not being made till March, that means production didn't really start. They shat out a couple hundred and now they've stopped.
Yeah.
They've idled their line. No, they must still be making trucks, but they're missing something.
Right.
Find out what it is and find a replacement.
So Mega Wilderness said Rivians are taking less time to arrive than Cybertruck. Well, that remains to be seen at this point. I mean, yeah, you've got 100, and you've got 4 people on this survey now out of 175 responses that say that they will get theirs before next March. Mass production is hard. Elon's been trying to tell everyone that. I mean, even Ford is figuring out that this is very different than what they've built in the past. GM is currently not making any EVs, which is surprising to me because they electrified the industry, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
I don't mean
Thank you, Mary.
I don't mean to be so mean, but that was just the dumbest thing I've heard in a long time. Just shows how difficult mass production is. Bad PR on their part to leave it to so late. And that's the thing, Paul. You can't tell me that you had all the hundreds, thousands of deliveries ready to go next week, and now you don't. You knew just what a mess.
Yeah, they obviously knew. And somebody should have some consequences. We'll never know about it. But that's obviously a screw up. It's a new company. And in regards to someone saying Rivian's got more deliveries than or they're ahead of CyberTruck.
They are.
CyberTruck was only announced
in 19.
How many years?
It was 2 years ago and like a week.
Okay, when was the Rivian R1T announced?
Well, we can tell by looking at this chart. When did people start reserving? A year before that. There were people who put in pre-orders in November of 18.
But just because they opened up pre-orders doesn't mean that they didn't announce it a long time ago. Yeah.
Let's take a look. Well, why doesn't somebody just tell us in the comments when it was officially announced? But Paul said, where does it go? Was it Paul? Yeah. So, but people haven't been given delivery dates for the Cybertruck. Yes, but if we've learned anything from Rivian's dates, it's that they're not meaningful at this point. Because weren't they supposed to deliver in July? And then it was pushed to November?
I think it was before that. And then, everybody blames COVID. It was probably supposed to be 2020.
Right. Redman says Rivian 100 probably was hand-built. Yeah, I would say for sure. For sure. At least mostly hand-built. The first days of a line are pretty difficult and, not super reliable. Yeah.
I could see that line moving and then stopping a lot.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's to me expected on a brand new line for a car that never existed. Oh, I thought you had something to say there.
I actually have a comment that I want to address because this one's kind of interesting. Gordon Rieger says, rumor Berlin should be unionized. Union employees won't get stock as part of their pay.
So we don't know. We know it'll be union because every company over like 25 people in Germany is unionized. But German unions are very different than American unions. It's just, and this was known all along, this was assumed. And we don't know what the terms will be because they have yet to be negotiated. I think the bargaining pool would be crazy to ask for more money and less stock. But if that's what they want, that's fine. They can get that.
Maybe they'll give them an option. But it brings up a question. Let me see if I'm getting this right. The EV tax credit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're now part of a union. Would that qualify only German-made
right.
Teslas
The car has to be
for an
built
additional tax
in a
credit?
union factory. So the Mex E's, the Mustang Mex E's, won't count because they're Eche en Mexico, even though it's
But
a
if it was
union company.
right, right, but you can still get the union discount, can't you?
Not on the Mach E. Nope, nope,
Well,
nope.
no, not on the Mach-E. You can't get. There's very few vehicles that qualify for all of them, and it's just different parts. Where, if you're first of all, you got to have a certain amount of kilowatts in your battery to go up the levels. But are they giving EV credits for Volkswagens? Yes, right.
I think it has to be an American union made, and I don't. And the
How do
ID,
you know? Are you sure? I'm not. I never really thought about this, but what about a Volkswagen that's made in Germany that is in a union, but not? I don't know. If somebody knows off the top of their head. Let us know if it's American unions only.
yeah, I'd be very surprised if it isn't. I'd be very surprised if it isn't. I did get a question a little bit ago.
That's where the kickback came from.
Well,
That's where the kickback came
look
from.
at no, I heard. Oh, I heard you. Look at who the UAW has donated to historically, and I think you
Yeah.
have to. I think you already know the answer. The
Yeah,
another question I had a second ago was, what do I think the capacity of Berlin is going to be? And the short answer is 500,000, and the longer answer is, without expanding, 600-ish at most. But they've, it could. We'll get a better picture by Q4 of next year, because I imagine they'll be mostly ramped by then. MD Hofsty, the union part is U.S. based unions. Yeah, American made only. And that may run
All right.
into trade problems because I think there's rules about anti-competitive rules that this may run afoul of, but I'm not sure.
Are you talking about
The EV credit for union made?
the EV credit could actually run into it? Okay.
Yeah, I'd read
I-
that it could be considered a non-competitive thing because it's not to all EVs; it's just to domestic union ones. So I'm not sure. And then MD
I
Hofsty
wanna-
says, plus the unions will not pass, or the Senate will not pass the union aspect. Remains to be seen. We just don't know.
Yeah, I would love to see that taken out.
It seems
Want to
excessive.
send out
It's too
a thanks
much.
to Tesla Den for joining me as a patron.
Hey,
Thank you,
nice.
Tesla Den. Yeah, what I think what's going to happen is they're trying to keep there's going to be a big fight going on if this stays in there, because we see companies like Ford are now building in non-union states, in right-to-work states.
Right.
And because overall it's always going to be cheaper for them to not have a union plant.
Right.
I don't know if they'll be able to actually do a non-union plant. I think it would be an option at that point when they build in these right-to-work states. But the people in these states where they have unions and it's mandatory, they're going to have to realize at some point they're going to see these large companies go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And it's just in their best interest to relook at it and see what the best option really is.
Sure. So EV Wannabe pointed out that German trade councils are not unions, but as I understand, they do handle collective bargaining. I believe the reports we're reading are using the two terms interchangeably when they shouldn't be, because we don't have anything like that to compare it to.
So Harry Chu just asked me, is this a Tesla channel? We are an EV channel, and we talk about all things, Harry. So I hope that you're not trying to get away from a Tesla channel, but we talk about Lucid, Nikola. Those are some of the things that I've been focused on. Brian, his focus has been on Tesla in the past, and now we are both combining our force, our superpower, and we are going to talk about everything, whether it's a Volkswagen, a Polestar, Rivian, Porsche,
And those are
That's all
just
the things
today's
that we've
topics.
talked about today.
Yeah,
those were
just
today's topics.
Yeah. So, Evie Wannabe saying not collective bargaining, no dues. I don't know what a works council is. I will look into that for the future. We're already at 5 o'clock. If anybody's got a bunch of questions, I think we should check them out. What's this last one? Oh, I think we can skip the numerology one. Final questions. Get them in while you can. We'll give this another couple minutes, see if there's anything. There were some. I've seen a bunch of theories thrown out here in the comments and elsewhere saying, well, maybe Volkswagen could do final assembly in the U.S. in a union plant to qualify. Maybe. It's just too up in the air right now to know for sure. My question is, Ford makes the Mustang in Mexico. It will not get the credit. Is that correct? That's my understanding, but we'll see. They're really trying to give money to Ford, but mostly they have to cater to the Ford workers and the Ford voters, and those voters do not work in Mexico. Okay, Works Council equals safety people. Okay.
Like a hall monitor.
Yeah.
Right. Harry Chu responded. He goes, thanks. This is the first time on this stream. Well, Harry, I hope you have enjoyed the stream, and I hope we're answering questions. And if you haven't subbed, please do.
So Harry, you got to know.
Workshop.
You got to know, Bear is on the verge of 10,000 subscribers, and we're trying to get him there by New Year's. So if anybody is feeling the love, you don't have to enjoy his videos. I mean, I certainly don't. But, no. And obviously I do because I watch him and I comment. But, help him out. It would just be kind of neat to get there. I know when I hit 10,000, I was very excited.
And if we can get to 50,000 by the end of the year, I'll shave my beard.
And if he can get to 100 Patreons, he'll do a hair reveal.
Some of them have already seen my hair. I've got other videos out there, but no,
that's what I mean.
No one's seen it like that.
Tease it, Bride of Frankenstein. Don't be shy.
I'll go all 80s for one video.
Ooh, nice. I was considering doing a Halloween costume the week after Halloween and saying I felt like an idiot, but... So we've got some just casual thank yous and all that. Lucid Air is good, but I believe that ship has sailed. Any other pressing concerns we need to get to?
I have two more comments.
Great.
JKM wants you to be honest and answer, do you own any Nikola stock? I know the answer to that. Yeah.
Bear does. I do not. I do not.
And Harry Chu, again. Hey, Harry, again. Thoughts on Biden's shameless promotion of GM and praising Mary Barra for the EV revolution. And he's also said he already subbed. Thank you, Harry. Well, we've kind of addressed our thoughts on that. We've actually said our thanks to Mary several times during this episode because it's a shameless promotion. It's a kick in the gut if you cared. But I think Elon is thicker skin than that, but I don't think Twitter is, because Twitter is hammering the point that was ridiculous, and who's ever writing his scripts needs to take a step back and look.
The great suggestion I saw was Elon should personally invite the president to the grand opening of Giga Texas, and if he doesn't show, put up a cardboard cutout. So, by the way, I've got a couple great comments here. Redman, subscribe to Bear. Jim Pook, just subscribe to Bear's channel. And UFOlogist, bang, just subbed. So, I mean, we're getting there.
Thanks, guys.
And
thanks. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, Jim Pook, just subbed. Commuter Branch Line, you two are a hoot. Yeah, this is a more laid back and fun. This is, of all the things I do in the course of a week, this one is by far the one I look forward to the most.
Hey.
Got to go up higher, a little higher. There you go. The Doge Father.
It's almost like he killed his kid, though, if he's the Doge Father. He kind of killed it, accidental death. Ozzy says Australia still has a luxury tax of 33% on vehicles over a certain price,
Yeah.
which was to encourage people to buy Australian-made cars. Number of cars being produced in Australia?
Goose egg. Goose egg.
Yeah, goose egg.
Paul Crowd has had a very insightful comment. He said, have a look at both of their Patreon pages as little as $1 a month. Paul gets it. Anyway. Well, I think that's about all we needs to do. We're over the hour mark. Quick thanks to my Patreons who get early access, bonus content, all that good stuff. And Bear's got his...
What have I got? Well, I've got my Patreon account. If you want to support the channel, please take a look at it. We really appreciate any type of help that you can give us. I know that's begging and groveling, but we have a $4,000 expense coming up that we're going to use for the channel. So any type of help. I hope my wife doesn't watch this. She could be pissed.
I didn't realize it was that high.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't have said that
Wasn't
out loud.
Wasn't it an 8x zoom, like an optical zoom? 5x?
Yeah, it's got a 7 times optical zoom, and then it's got a hybrid digital zoom, which you can go all the way up to 28 times. We're probably not going to use that on a regular basis. It gets a little fuzzy at that point, but the 7X is great. And even going just to the 14, the pictures that I've seen are just like, it's showing you pictures of things that you didn't even know were there from 2,000 feet away. And then you're seeing things that weren't there, and now they're there because they've zoomed in so far, and it's clear enough to make out what it is.
And I've seen that in channels where, there was one I was watching, I think it was Santa Monica, somewhere where the coastline was eroding, and there was things that he spotted later that he never would have seen on a lesser drone, let alone, while he's flying. So... So, yeah, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. It's a lot of fun.
I've had a very pleasurable time tonight. I'd like to thank you, and maybe we'll do an after-dinner cocktail.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, doesn't it? All right, well, we're going to be back here next Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific. We're going to have new topics, maybe some of the same ones. Maybe we'll talk more about Mary and thank her for everything that she's done. Because at this point,
Mary.
She's like an idol to me. I want to build a statue just to thank her for saving us in this EV revolution. So until next time, are we ready to sign off?
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys have any awesome comments, leave them below. If you didn't catch it live, that's fine.
All right. Till next week. We'll see you next Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific.